The next morning, I had decided I'd head towards Reno, Nevada, on my way to San Francisco. The only reason I chose Reno is because it was in the same direction I was already heading. I started down Highway 50, what Life magazine called the loneliest road in America, in July of 1986. I have no idea if it can still claim that title, but I can safely say it is the single most boring highway I rode this entire trip. Mile upon mile of straight, flat highway. If it weren't for Bluetooth speakers in my helmet, I think I would have gotten a little nutty. I honestly cannot explain how mind-numbing this portion of the ride was, so I'll just show you. This is just 1 minute of the flat Nevada highways. Again, 1 minute. 1 minute of straight highway with nothing to keep you company but the wind. 1 minute of the 6 or 7 hours I spent on those highways. It got pretty monotonous. That ride to Reno was sidetracked when I was stopped by an accident just short of Austin, Nevada. There was already a long line of cars when I arrived. I chatted with some of the other drivers while we waited for the road to be cleared. After about an hour, a sheriff drove by telling all of us it would be another 6 to 12 hours since they were dealing with a fatal crash. I wasn't willing to camp on the side of the highways, so I decided to head south to Highway 6 before turning west again. The change in route put me at the end of the fuel range for my bike, especially with the panniers on. My fuel light had been on for the last 20 miles or so when I finally rolled into Tonopah, so the first step was to remedy that and get some gas. I barely noticed it as I was riding out of town, but this town has what is apparently a somewhat famous clown motel. In 1985, Leona and Leroy David opened the Clown Motel next to the cemetery where their beloved father, Clarence David, was buried. They displayed all 150 of their father's clown collection, and apparently it was a hit. I honestly regret not staying there. Shortly after turning north onto Highway 95 and heading back toward Reno, it dawned on me that I had no real reason to go to Reno. So I plotted another adventurous route to break things up, and the GPS took me on a dirt road between Highway 95 and back onto Highway 6. I have to say though, it appears that even the dirt roads in Nevada are pretty straight and flat. Back on Highway 6, I encountered a rather lively rainstorm. It wasn't until I was riding through the edge of it that I remembered I was likely one of the tallest objects in the area. Thankfully, the lightning seemed to be contained to the hills. Western Nevada is where the roads finally started getting interesting. Little hill passes and small changes in elevation, and just generally beautiful landscapes. I crossed into California, and for whatever reason, my GPS took me all the way south on Highway 6 to Bishop instead of turning west on Highway 20 directly to Lee Vining. This route added another 20 miles or so to the journey overall, but the ride through Inyo National Forest really made it worth it. I'll admit, when I rolled through Bridgeport, I wasn't really thinking clearly anymore. I wasn't thinking about where to stop for the night, and even though it was another 100 miles to Sonora, I didn't think twice about continuing on. And it was at this point where I feel like I was finally introduced to California riding. The narrow 2-lane mountain road pass was everything I had hoped to find. I'm not saying I got carried away and crossed lines on the road a few times, but I'm not saying that either. Even the sections where I was stuck behind a slow SUV weren't enough to dampen my mood. The roads were just that good. I didn't think my brain was working well enough to try to find a place to camp, and the light was quickly failing, so I resigned myself to finding a hotel to crash at in Sonora, California. What I didn't realize was there were some massive fires burning in California, and because of a mass evacuation, all hotels were booked. There was nothing to do but keep going to Modesto and hope there was something open there. I rode well past sunset, which was a little unsettling considering the number of deer warning signs I saw. It would end up being the longest solo day I'd have on this trip, starting at around 8 in the morning and ending with my arrival at a hotel with vacancy at about 11:30 at night. It was about 615 miles in total, but with the delays with traffic and the reroutes and the other reroutes, it just ended up being a really long day. I wasn't going to arrive at my buddy's place until late afternoon the next day, so I slept in and checked out as late as possible. I'd end up staying in Danville, California for 3 nights, and quickly understood why that part of the country is so desirable to live in. From here, I'd head to the coast and then start making my way north.